Zhang defeated Joyce with a stunning knockout victory, and once again, the 40-year-old from China proved he has the knockout power, style and IQ to defeat Joyce in this rematch. And by winning this fight, it could just give Zhang a world title shot in 2024, potentially against Alexander Usyk or even Tyson Fury. But before I talk about what's next for both, I wanted to break down the fight and how it all played out. Now, looking at the first fight itself, Joyce really struggled against the southpaw style of Zhang, and it's clear him and his team did make some adjustments to try and counter the southpaw stance. In the first round, we saw quite a tentative start from both. Zhang most likely wanted to see how Joyce would approach the fight, while Joyce was mainly circling to his left, while Joyce was a bit more authoritative with the lead hand compared to the first fight, while he was circling to the left trying to get to the outside of Zhang. However, straight away I just felt very worried about the approach from Joyce as he was bringing down his lead hand after throwing the jab, or even probing with it. And when you do this, it kind of puts you into a kind of Philly shell shoulder roll stance, and this can be extremely dangerous for orthodox fighters against a southpaw and vice versa. So keep a note for this later in the fight. For Zhang, I actually think he's quite an underrated counterpuncher. For the most part, he's willing to parry with that lead hand, or is ready to block the left hook from the orthodox fighter, where he himself also has very subtle footwork, waiting for the orthodox fighter to commit on the outside before he subtly puts himself in a position with his own footwork to strike them with the left hand. And I feel Zhang puts you in a position where you actually feel comfortable within your own rhythm that he can't get to you. And in the second round, immediately I noticed Joe was going into that shoulder roll shell stance after throwing the lead hand. And as I just said before, this is very dangerous against the southpaw as it creates an opening for the left hand. While if you continue moving left, while in this position, it opens up for the southpaw right hook. And the first successful attack from Zhang was a left straight followed by a right hook, which he missed, but the transfer of weight and the gap in Joyce's guard left the perfect opening for Zhang to throw the left hand down the pipe. And after this, Joyce was really shaken up, I have to admit. Zhang once again just had to be quite patient and wait for his moment. Of course, once again, Joyce throws out the lead hand with no authority and brings it down to his body, creating the perfect opportunity to throw the right hook straight cross. While you also have to respect Zhang for getting Joyce to throw out his lead hand and getting him into that rhythm, tempting Joyce to try and win that lead hand battle. And also at the same time, you've got to respect the timing and awareness of Zhang to pick this up, as he just looked a lot more comfortable and in control of what Joyce was doing. Now personally, the only thing I can try and understand why Joyce was using the lower lead hand to cover the body was to protect himself from Zhang's left to the body. However, this was just the completely wrong approach in my opinion. I think using a higher guard would have been a better choice than going into that shoulder roll crab-like stance, especially versus a southpaw. And it's clear Joyce hasn't had the best head movement over the years, so we've all seen him try to rely on his chin maybe a bit too much alongside his footwork, while it also wasn't helped by the fact his lead hand wasn't giving any signs of authority when he was throwing it. At the same time, you maybe have to give Zhang some credit for his counter-punching ability, which made Joyce even more hesitant. In the third round, once again, it was pretty much more of the same from Zhang. He just had to go out there and do what he's doing in the second round, throwing out that lead hand, tempting Joyce into that lead hand battle. And once again, Zhang just had to slip that lead hand and throw his left hand and get on the outside, hurting Joe once again in the process. And with Joyce not really throwing his right hand, even when he was moving out to the outside, Zhang didn't really have a lot to worry about at this point, and it was more about biding his time and once again waiting for the right moment to strike once he was in range. And for the knockout itself, you can see Joyce going into that shoulder roll stance again like he had done in the first two rounds, and this time going to the body and then followed up by beautiful right hook up top to knock him out. Now, as I said earlier in this video, using that kind of shell crab-like style stance can be very dangerous against a southpaw, as it leads a direct attack for the left hand up top or to the body, while the lead hand also acts as a distraction before throwing that straight left hand down the pipe. And in the end, it's no surprise Zhang got that knockout in my opinion. The lack of adjustments from Joyce was apparent going into that first round, and he was clearly still mentally affected from that first fight in my opinion. And you can make the argument that stylistically it was just horrible matchup for Joyce. They probably underrated Zhang due to his age and lack of bigger fights. However, for me, after watching that Hrgovic fight, I was very impressed with Zhang, and I think that was probably the best we've seen of him. But for Joyce, he just looked very tentative, unsure of the game plan or even how to fight a southpaw. Now, I'm not saying fighting a southpaw or any fighter is an easy feat. However, I thought we would see some more adjustments from Joyce, such as better footwork or better defensive qualities going into this fight, but only they will know what actually happened in their camp. And I do hope we get to see maybe Joyce come back out, but I think it's going to be very hard for him to get a world title shot going forward, as he was so close to getting one. He was knocking on the door with the likes of Tyson Fury and even Alexander Usyk. And hey, maybe they'll take on that fight because they'll believe they can beat him. And for Big Bang Zhang, he does the double versus Joyce, and I truly believe that he should get a title shot next, either against Usyk or Fury. I believe he's the WBO interim champion, so I think he could get a shot at Usyk. But he does have a contract under Queensberry Promotions, so there's a good chance he could even face someone like a Dubois or even a Tyson Fury next. And I don't think this is an easy fight for whoever takes this guy on. I know he is 40 now, but I still believe he's very dangerous heavyweight even for his age. I think he has really underrated fast hands while that plodding power at the same time. Just look at the likes of George Foreman, and a way that plodding kind of power reminds me of him in a way. But yeah guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the fight, and what would you like to happen to Zhang and even Joyce going forward now. This has been Jamie from Boxing Life. Thank you so much for watching as always guys, and I'll see you in the next one.